I think they don't want to talk about the issues that neither President Trump or President Biden are comfortable talking about. These two presidents ran up the biggest deficit in history. That's now driving the inflationary cycle in this country. President Trump, in 4 short years, ran up $8 trillion in debt. It's more debt, more money spent than every president combined from George Washington to George W. Bush. And President Biden is rushing to keep up with them. The two of them shut down our country, shut down 3.3 million businesses with no due process, no just compensation, no scientific citation. They're the ones who are feeding the toxic polarization that is tearing our country apart.
Well, let's be clear. Much of that spending was around COVID, getting us out of the COVID pandemic. Joining me right now to talk more about all of that is the anchor of the Faulkner Focus on Fox News. She is the co-host of Outnumbered and host of Fox Nation's new program, Vietnam, Footsteps of My Father. Harris Faulkner back with us. Harris, it's great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you so very much for having me.
Well, congratulations on the new special. I saw a few clips of it, Harris, and it looks absolutely dynamic. It warmed my heart, actually, to see you go back to where your father had been. Let me get to that in a second, Harris. Okay. What do you make of the debates and Trump, Biden keeping, RFK Jr. off the debate stage? And, of course, now all of this talk about the need for drug testing.
Look, we came out of a pandemic. There was a need for testing at that point. I mean, testing's kind of been, a talking point for everybody. Should they do it? Sure. I mean, I guess if both men agree to it. Look, this isn't done by the presidential committee, the National Presidential Committee. So the rules are what they can agree to. And if both men really want to go at it, then they'll come to stuff that maybe you and I haven't even thought of, Maria. But here's the thing. People want what they can't have. Trump has been gagged. Now he's going to go and debate Biden. We hope that's going to happen. We don't really know how that's going to shake out. Biden may back out at the last second. Who knows? Yep. But look, once they go down that road, people will begin to see a dynamic difference between these two men, something that Trump has been able to exploit and show them from a courtroom 15 minutes a day. So now we're going to have both men on stage, potentially. No audience. So it'll be kind of like Biden's basement, but bigger, we hope. And then we'll get to see. We'll get to see whether or not Biden can really bring it in a situation where he hasn't been part of a, at least supporting a situation. We won't say he colluded to have it happen, but it's his Justice Department. Yeah. He hasn't been directly hands-on, as far as we can prove so far, keeping his opponent sidelined. But that's what's happened. And it is lawfare, as we've heard. So can he bring it when they're both in the room? And 15 minutes a day is really all Trump needs in those gigantic rallies that he has, I suppose. I can't wait. I hope they talk about the issues.
Me too. Me too. I mean, look, Trump usually plays well to the big crowd. We've seen him at all of the rallies, and he basically thrives on the energy of the people in the room. Biden wants nobody in the room, no audience. Yeah. So that's a plus for Biden, I guess, right? Does that take away from Trump?
I don't think so. I think that this president has gained something that perhaps he needed to by, and I try to find the silver lining in everything. I'm not like trying to oversell the gag orders, the ridiculousness of the break of free speech and all of that.
And it is.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Cohen can lie as he breathes, but the former president has to have a gag order. But what I am saying is that he's had to have a certain amount of discipline, Maria, so that when he does step up to that microphone, he looks like a press secretary. He's got his notes all organized. He's got stuff highlighted. This from Axios, this from Andy McCarthy, the legal expert on Fox, this from another person. So that has taught him something that he already knew from all of his years in TV, but it has honed that skill again of him being able to say, okay, I only have a couple minutes. Let me just say the most important part rather than getting myself in trouble going too far and too wide. Let Biden play that far and wide game. Let him struggle with his memory to remember things that, like, he was the vice president during the pandemic, reportedly.
Yeah.
And when I say reportedly, I mean he reported that. I mean, let him struggle, let him box himself in, and if Trump just sticks to kind of his own facts, don't make it personal if you can, and so on and so forth. And I think he's got this, because this is discipline now when you're in a courthouse all day long and you only have a few minutes at the microphone.
Yeah, great point. Chris, have the markets started to weigh into the presidential election and what that might mean for policy changes? You know, if Trump wins, there's going to be a lot fewer regulations. You know, the climate change agenda of Biden's has come with lots of new rules. Do you think markets are reacting to any of this yet? And if so, if not, when?
It's a great question. I think the markets have been a bit oblivious to that, right? The anti-energy policies that the Biden administration, have been kind of forgotten about, and that's playing the biggest role in inflation. As we said, you know, the $34 trillion of debt, no one's looking at that yet either. I think the markets will respond to it. I think they'll respond much more favorably to the Trump administration because of anti-regulation. I think we will see a very negative effect. You know, I just don't think kind of drug-induced clarity is what people want from the leader of the free world. I assure you the market doesn't want that, right? They're so concerned about it. So I think this will be an enormous effect if Biden has another 4 years. I think the markets will respond very negatively to that.
Well, Chris, we got to talk later about NVIDIA. NVIDIA is going to be reporting earnings Wednesday night after the close. I got to get your expectations there. But Harris, let's talk about your new show exclusively on Fox Nation. It's called Vietnam, Footsteps of My Father. Here's a clip.
You found a website of my dad's old unit?
Your dad's old unit. I saw the company command post, and sure enough,
his name is there.
Yeah.
He was commanding the unit. I didn't know that he had made major.
While he was in Vietnam.
While he was in Vietnam.
On a second tour.
Yeah. That is a big deal.
Yeah.
Wow. I tried to imagine what his days were like, because when he would say that he would fly nonstop, I didn't, first of all, have a good feeling of the landscape that we were fighting in.
Right.
But this is a lot. The 614th Maintenance Company.
How amazing that you learned he was named major while in Vietnam on this trip. Tell us more, Harris.
Well, he was a leader. And he was doing what I had seen him do my whole life, but doing it at a much younger age then. And that was just so impressive, actually, because the conditions were difficult for all of our warriors there. I want to just set the scene. That's the Saigon River, by the way. My father flew a very dangerous mission. And in Vietnam, Footsteps of My Father on Fox Nation, it's a limited series that each part is about 20 minutes or so. No commercials. I love that part. So we actually have my dad's voice because we recorded a little bit for a book I had worked on a number of years ago, and I kept those recordings. And so it is jarring at first for me to even share that because nobody else had heard it. But what is so amazing is when we're on the Saigon River, moments after us talking about his group that he was leading commander of, we start to revisit. And we go down the same exact trek that his plane was turned into Swiss cheese as he was flying low and high over that river, trying to stay out of the reach of the guns and the mortar that they were firing from him on the banks of the river, the Viet Cong. It's just an amazing thing, Maria, to be someplace and to almost have legacy now, to go back at a time when there is peace, when there is still a communist nation. Almost every time you see me, you see a communist flag behind me. Did you see it blowing in the wind on that boat?
Oh, wow. Yeah, right.
You can't escape it. It's, you know, it's interesting, though. They greet us with hope. Hope for a friendship. And I took my father's military burial flag in my backpack, and he is with me in spirit every place I go. And there's certain times that I take it out. And I want him to know what it's like now. Christianity has a sliver of that part of the world, yet one of the largest statues of Jesus Christ in the world exists there. I mean, it's a 99% Buddhist and Tao country.
Yeah.
And that, I think, Maria, was our mark. That's part of our mark.
That's so beautiful. Harris, real quick, we got to jump, but let me ask you this. When did you record your father's voice?
2018. And he died on Christmas morning, 2020.
Oh, my God.
I know. I mean, the Lord just had me right there, right?
God intervened.
Yeah.
God
Divine
intervened.
mission.
Oh, wow. That is so great. I want to hear more about him. I'm glad you're here the whole hour.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We're with Harris Faulkner this morning, along with Chris McMahon.